So this talk is titled "How to Be a Great Vegan Ambassador." It's kind of like linked to the first talk that I gave this morning, and I'd like you to keep the principles in mind that I told you about this morning, and try to apply them within communication. So this is going to also be about communication. So there will be some overlap, I think, with what Melanie said, but I try to limit it as much as possible. Okay. First of all, I just want you to know like how important you all are. In the sense that that all of you, and that's why this course is organized, of course, is that if we can have vegans or animal rights people be more efficient at veganizing other people, then it's a very strategic thing to do. Okay, it's like a multiplication effect, and it's especially important because the people in the organizations, I learned from Sebastian to make these like big circles on the screen. People in organizations are just like a very tiny part of the movement. So you see, that's the orange. It's not on scale, but the orange circle is like the people in organizations, the professionals, and the rest, that's the civilians. Most of you are civilians, I think, that you're not professionally working for an organization. But that's the most people, right? You have that bad. The only problem is that that not all vegans are good communicators and good ambassadors, I think. And I don't want to say like I know everything about efficient vegan communication, and nobody of us is going to say that. But I hope that I can give you some ideas of what I think is like better than other things. If you look, so here it is. So this is so one vegan saves like all these chickens, right? But if one vegan convinces like other people to go vegan, then they save together much more chickens and other animals, right? So it's really interesting to not just what you eat, but what kind of effect you have on other people. Okay. So this is a graphic from another situation, from obesity, and they found out it's a bit controversial. It's not entirely sure, but it seems that obese people have more obese people in the group of friends. That's not because they like each other more, but it seems to be that if you are this or that, you give permission to the people within your circle of friends to be this or that. Right? So if you are vegan, then it's easier for people to become vegan also. Of course, that's simple, but it's also because people see like, okay, this is something normal. It can be in the case of smoking too, in the case of bad things, that, I mean, if you see a lot of smoking around you, then you say like, smoking is normal, I can smoke. Right? Okay. So that's why it's important to have as many people as possible like us surrounding other people who are not like us. So we can have like it's called like an oil effect or whatever, like oil spreading on water, you know, like, yeah. So this is 6, it should be 5 degrees. I distinguish 5 degrees of commitment among vegans or vegetarians or animal rights people, and it's like a spectrum from not very committed to extremely committed and maybe too much committed. So the two on the side are in red, so these are like, I think, not optimal. So you have on the one hand, you have like people, you know, these vegetarians, mostly vegetarians, vegans, it doesn't really happen with them. But some vegetarians who say like, oh, it's just a choice, this is what I do for me and I won't bother other people with that, you know? I've heard it here before that some people like were doubting about like, can they bother other people with it, or that they were just like out of the closet as an activist. Then there's the people who like say like, yeah, it's important to me that there's more good vegans, but I'm not going to like do too much. I'm just going to be my own good example. I care about that other people are vegan, but I'm not active. I'm not going to like spread leaflets. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I want to be a good example. Then there's the conscious ambassador who says like, yeah, I really want to convince people, and a bit higher is maybe like people who are active in an organization, as a volunteer in an organization. And then if you take it 1 degree further, you may end up with like people who are like too strongly, too passionately involved. Like maybe you cannot be too passionate, but I guess you know what I mean, that the people like Melanie said, I used to be like one of those people, like who take every opportunity to veganize, you know? And it's not always the best idea, and they do it like in a way that is not often, maybe doesn't sound compassionate, or is a bit too aggressive, or is not optimal. So my aim with this talk is like move people to the ideal place, to what I think in all modesty is the ideal place. So make the people who are like not interested, who think it's not their place to convince other people, more convinced of that, and the ones who are like too forceful, to make them a bit more practical, pragmatic, and yeah, easygoing. Okay. Just a second. Yeah. So both to the middle. So those people who like don't care much, I would say that they're not very passionate about veganism or whatever else, and they consider it as personal choice, right? It does sound like, I don't know what you think when people say like veganism is a personal choice. What do you think about that?
What is the question again?
When people say like veganism, it's a personal choice. Like you do that if you want, I do what I want. What do you think? How do you react to that?
Actually, I think it's a good starting point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can still develop more. It doesn't mean that you have always to be at this point that's for yourself.
No, but if when people say to you, like I'm a meat eater, and I say like, oh, you're a vegan, oh yeah, well, everybody has their opinion, and you have your choice and I have mine.
Actually, that's a difficult situation, because I mean, when I have somebody who gives that point to me, it's hard to discuss with this person about veganism, because obviously she's not ready or he's not ready to discuss about this.
Yeah. Yeah, you first and then you.
The problem I think that this is validating for other things, but the problem in veganism is it's not maybe right to say it's my personal choice, because you are harming others.
Mm-hmm.
When your decisions don't harm others, then you can take different, no? But as long as you are not giving choice to others, then it's not applicable, I think.
Right. Okay. Wait, first.
Sometimes he's like...
Sorry. I meant, yeah, well, it's hard. You're sitting in the same row. Go on with what you were saying.
Okay. Sometimes I feeling it's like the last exit of a discussion, when you reach the point where you realize it doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah.
Then you say that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I would also ask them, when did they make the conscious choice to eat meat?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Make them think about it.
Yeah.
They probably never do.
Yeah. Most of the time I think it's useful to like point out that we're not talking about a neutral issue. Like I usually say, like it's not as if we're deciding like what color are we going to paint the wall in. Like you say red and I say blue. It's not like that. There's something at stake. We're using other beings, and I think you can make that clear to people in a compassionate and in a rational, calm way. So. So I would like, there are no people here like that, I think, but I would like to, vegetarians who like their vegetarianism and who believe in it, that they think like, okay, this is something I I call it, you have a license to veganize, okay? You are allowed to veganize, because you believe in it, you can rationally argue for it, you have very good arguments for it, and it comes from empathy. Right? That's very important, because you could, religious fundamentalists who are like going to blow up some, the WTC towers or whatever in New York, they could also say like we have a license to proselytize, to turn other people towards our religion, but they're not acting from compassion, and they're certainly not acting rationally. Right? So if you have rationality and empathy, compassion on your side, and you believe something is good for you, and you believe something is good for the world, I think you have a license to like try to influence other people. It's and you don't have to think like I cannot do it. It's my business, and it's like I'm afraid to change other people. Yeah.
I'm curious about what you think about this, because you say if you are compassionate, then you have the license to veganize. But what about vegan activists that are too compassionate, but they don't have any rational arguments?
Yeah.
Do you think they're a healthy way to veganize? I personally think they should shut up.
Yeah, that's the second part. You have a license to veganize, but it should be done in a good way, in a way that is effective. Which is what we're talking about in this whole 4 days, actually. Yeah, and the person who is very passionate, etc., he will still have. For veganism, there's still in general there's good reasons, but he may not be able to like communicate it in an efficient way. And that may often be counterproductive. And indeed, sometimes I say like, please go back to eating meat because you're doing more harm than good. Yeah.
So what would be a good answer if somebody says, oh, it's one's own choice?
I would say something like this, like you have to understand that we're not talking about some trivial subject. We're talking about suffering, etc. It's a bit like what I also say sometimes is like, people think that you are in a higher position than, I think maybe it was you who asked, somebody who said like, I'm not prepared to consider myself a better person, but my food choices are better. Was that you? Yeah, I think that's very right. I mean, you can say that, like, being vegan doesn't make me a better person, doesn't put me higher, but in this field, in this particular field, the field of food choices, I think I have made a better, more informed, more rational, more compassionate choice. And maybe you have made better choices in other things, but in this field, I think my choice is better because I can argue for it and I can explain it. But on the other hand, like maybe these other people, like they have chosen not to ever fly an airplane for environmental reasons, and we are not doing that, So they have made like a better, more sustainable choice there.
I agree with you. I think that's a very good possibility. Another possibility that I often do is connected to our work with carnism, because our campaign in Germany is called Carnism Erkennen, recognize carnism, and its slogan is when did you choose to eat meat, get back your, or when did you choose to eat animals, get back your freedom of choice. And I often say in interviews that I am in favor of choosing freely what you want to eat, but in order to do this choice, and I also explain it, it's only in interviews where I explain carnism too, so people know what I mean. In order to be able to make your choices freely, you have to have awareness for what impacts our choice, and you have to have all the information needed to make a really freely and healthy choice. And this is mostly not the case in our society.
Yeah, this is like you know how people sometimes say like these vegans, like they want to force all kind of things on us and like force us they want to tell us how to eat, and what I tell them then is like, or what I write about sometimes is that they haven't chosen freely either. Like you say, they are influenced by advertisements, by what their parents ate, by what is eaten in their culture, etc. This is a nice, I have some illustrations now and then. See this here? Oh, it's gone? Oh yeah. See? So you have these advertisements, people are bombarded with advertisements and they don't care. And they're influenced by them in terms of what they eat. But then as soon as there's like a vegan message, they say like, fucking vegans always telling me what to do, Alright. Good. Let's just go back to where it was. Sorry. Yeah, so a license to veganize, and yeah, some more characteristics of people who are like very, very timid or soft. Like they're not vocal about, they're hardly ever going to talk about it. They will keep their diet sometimes a secret. They will avoid any confrontation, and they have no need for vegetarian groups. They don't see the point of activism, right? Because it's something personal. Like for instance, Indians, a lot of Indians would be like that in the sense that like vegetarianism is something cultural for them and they don't really think about it that much. And a lot of them do, but a lot of them, for them it's just a tradition, and they say like, oh, your choice and my choice. And it's sometimes hard to convince Indian people to become activists and they're like rather exceptions. And then there's the other part, like they're too passionate. We already talked about that. Can be like aggressive, accusing, don't know when to stop, will take every opportunity, every non-opportunity, always like talking about that. They don't, the vegan police, the term? Vegan police is like the policing the vegan movement, and they will say like, well, to me they would say, if they heard I'm drinking wine, they would say like, yeah, you're not a real vegan, and please stop calling yourself a real vegan. That would be really bad if you listen to them, because in the end, then only the people who like really strict and who are like really, really, well, passionate about it will be the only ones left calling them vegans, and all the other ones can't, who are a bit more pragmatic. So that would give like a real bad image. So you find these people a lot on Facebook groups. I think it's typical that part of the population isn't out there in the streets talking to people or doing activism, and they're just behind their computer. And then it's harder to have an idea of what works and what doesn't work, right? And the communication on the internet, on Facebook, very easily gets derailed into some kind of like shouting contest or whatever. So you have to watch out with those vegan Facebook groups. In terms of like, I think they're often very damaging in the sense that some people who are like open to the message, and then they end up in a group like that, and then they see like, what is this, you know? Yeah. So it's good to put some rationality in there and to make your voice heard. So, and if then we talk about balance, being in the middle, like it's, I would say like you're able to like discuss in diplomatic, positive, in a convincing way. You choose your moments. You know when to talk, when not to talk. Food is a very essential component of veganizing. Okay, tolerant and open. You're a good example, and you can identify with others. You can think we. You can think us. You don't think me versus them. You can think like we're all in this together. And this is also an important point. I think to Melanie said the same thing. Most people are, except for psychopaths, they have empathy, and most people love animals. So the seeds of what we want to achieve are in each of us. Okay, we have a starting point with most people to talk about animals, or to find this empathy in them. So most people will care about animal suffering. So that's a starting point to think about. We all think about not hurting. To a more or less explicit extent, but some people spend more time on it than others. Remember the time frame that I gave you, and the two phases. You can perfectly talk in the very I mean, let's say this anti-speciesist ideology, like the very animal rights focused ideology, as opposed to the more like pragmatic softer ideology and communication. But just know when to do it today. Okay, know to whom you're speaking, and like if I give you the $5 million, then it's better not to give the anti-speciesist message on TV. But if you're going to like talk to a university audience of people like into philosophy or moral or ethics or whatever, they might very well be open to a concept like speciesism. All right, so distinguish. Do we have to engage? This is about like personal conversations. Do you have to start a conversation? Like Melanie said, sometimes it's just not worth your time. Sometimes people are just out to get you. Maybe people in Belgium know this sticker. So it's like, why is the one your friend and the other? Why is the other food? And you would say like, oh, this is a very strong argument. But then there's some people writing their conclusion. So eat dogs, right? So these people, like, I don't know if there's much sense to talk to people like this. They just want to be annoying, and not much you could do. Also, keep in mind that when you have a confrontation, I say this in a neutral sense, but when you're talking to people, you can give them different things. You cannot just give them information, but you also give them an experience of you, of how it is to talk to a vegan, a food experience, if you cook for them, and they will leave you with a certain feeling. And your job is to make them leave with a better feeling than they had before. It's like that in every. It should be like that in every encounter in the world in general. Like if we talk, that you leave me with a better feeling than when you found me. I think that's a nice philosophy for life in general. But just pay attention that it's not about the rational arguments, or not only about the rational arguments. Maybe only minimally about the rational arguments and about winning the discussion. It's about the feeling they're going to leave with. Sometimes it may be better to like let them leave with like an idea that's not entirely true, and we know better, but we not necessarily have to say it. We don't necessarily have to be right. Okay? Also ask yourself what you want. Like, is it winning? Do you want to win an argument? Right? Do you want to like show off? Do you want to be better than people? Do you want to be seen as holier than them? Do you want to like be recognized for your integrity or for your ethics? These are all very, very sensible, normal things for people. You don't have to be ashamed if you have like some ego in there, and if you want to prove yourself with your arguments or whatever. But be aware of it. It's important to be aware of it. None of us, are there any saints in the room? Saints? No. None of us is a saint, I think. So we all have pure and less pure motivations. We want to help the animals, but at the same time we want to like do something for ourselves. We want to feel meaningful, right? All these things, they're okay, but just be aware that helping the animals is most of the time not your only motivation. Okay, so the good motivations there could be like helping create a good image of veganism, right? Empowering another person, making people ask questions is very good. For instance, what I mean with creating a good image of vegans and veganism, I'm always keeping in mind that veganism is not a goal but a means. It's a means towards a better world for animals. Sometimes veganism can, in my opinion, be counter to that purpose. So I'm going to give a concrete example. If somebody invites me for dinner and they're not vegan, and I explain to them I'm vegan, and they did their best to make a great meal, and then I go to the bathroom, and in walking to the bathroom I look in the kitchen and I see like a jar of mayonnaise, non-vegan mayonnaise, which I think they used for the meal. Then I'm not going to say, after my bathroom break, I'm not going to say to them like, hey, I saw in your kitchen that you had like this, did you use this for my meal, because then it's not vegan and then I can't continue eating it, you know? This will not give a good impression to people. I want to sacrifice my sense of purity in order to like give people a better idea of what veganism is, or I don't want to detract from their idea. If they have an idea of veganism as something very difficult, something that makes it almost impossible for you to have like normal interactions with people and to take invitations, etc., then I think it's detrimental to veganism and detrimental for the animals, right? And I'm not saying I can make huge exceptions. Like if there's like a piece of meat in there or whatever, I'm probably not going to be able to do that, even though it might be better sometimes to do that, but I probably can't. And then if I say this on Facebook, there's often these reactions, yeah, you can always do it, there was always a polite way to explain that, etc. Maybe sometimes, maybe if you're very good, very patient, maybe if you're Melanie, you can explain that. But in most cases, I think it's going to be harmful. Anybody who disagrees? Go ahead.
Yeah, how are you going to, what kind of image will they have about veganism if they think that mayonnaise, for example, is okay?
I think that's a very minor worry. If they think they will find at some other point that they will find out at some other point that veganism is okay. But if there's an embarrassing situation at that moment, which there's definitely a chance for, then they can remember that for the rest of their lives. That's much more important than not finding out at that moment that veganism is not okay, I think. You see? But you do what you want. I'm just giving my opinion on this, and I'm just thinking like always keep in mind that veganism is not the end. It's not about veganism in itself. It's about making a better world for animals. Okay. I knew that some people would disagree, and that's fine. I think there's different things to be said about it. I'm just giving you one way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same experience. Like I remember that one time my boss gave for Christmas everybody like a chocolate Christmas present, and he actually bought some like veggies, those Katja's veggies, and said, "I love veggie for me."
Yeah.
And I really thought, am I going to tell them, well, it's with beeswax,
yeah,
it's not vegan?
Yeah.
But I just kind of said, thank you so much for considering, because
yeah,
we went to like a different store, and
yeah,
and so I didn't say anything.
I think that's wise. Yeah. You could say like, yeah, this guy has not found out that these things contain beeswax and that beeswax is not vegan. I think that's a detail, very much a detail compared to like his perception, his interaction with you, his perception of veganism, his not being alienated, etc. So that's where purity is like, for me, secondary to like these interactions and to the end goal. Okay, we can discuss this maybe more later. All right. So very important, Melanie said this too, to keep in mind. Have you ever eaten meat? Do you have mistakes? Do you have your own blind spots? Probably you have. You have some things that are you don't do. You know you should do, but you don't do. yeah, picture of humanity expectation. I do that like that. Another principle is it's a bit like that, like just what I just said. Keep impact in mind. Keep in mind what impact you're going to have. It's not about impact. Is not about telling it like it is. Impact is not about like meat is murder, and yeah, that's true, and so I should say that. No, that's not impact. That's just saying what you want to say, but it's not the same as impact, right? It's speaking your mind. It's speaking your truth, maybe, but. For me, that's not the most important thing. For other people, it might be that maybe their top value to say what's on their mind, to speak their truth. For me, impact is much more important. Impact trumps that. What effect you're going to have with people. It's not about talking what we want to talk about. It's about, like Melanie said, doing things, saying things, so that people are more open to our calls. That's the way I judge my actions. Like, are they going to be more open? But again, I cannot, if I think they're going to be more open if I eat meat, I can't go there for some reason. And like I said, maybe it's not the most rational thing, but I don't want to do it. And you have to, all of you have to determine where your line is there. Okay? So I already said this. The question is not, am I right or what is true, but does this work? Thread lightly means like be careful. You have to remember when you talk to non-vegans, you start with a handicap. You start at a disadvantaged position. Why? Because people, they know that if they follow you, if they follow your reasoning, and if they accept what you're saying, then to understand you is to change their life. It's either to be a hypocrite, or consider themselves a hypocrite, consider themselves not consistent, because they believe that you're right and they're not going to change, or they change their lives, right? So that's why, most people are not prepared to all of a sudden stop, except for people who really, there's of course people who don't like meat at all, and the people, it's more the case with women than with men, who can't wait to be out of the house when they're young, so that they can stop eating meat, right? With me it was the opposite. With my girlfriend, she was not about then I read on Facebook you're so concerned about not harming people's feelings, etc. It's not about that. I am concerned about not hurting people, of course, but it's mainly about, for me, it's mainly about giving them a good idea of veganism and making sure they're open. That's what I'm concerned about, right? So that's why I will be careful. So people are defensive, so to say it with a non-vegan expression, walk on eggshells. The expression, you have to be walk on eggs, like very careful. This is a quote from a professor of mine. He said, "Do you want to quickly turn people angry and irrational? Start a discussion about their habit of eating meat. Even the most progressive person will feel so irritated that his only way out will be to humiliate and ridicule his opponent." It sound familiar? Like even when you talk to really smart people, like people and really progressive people who are into the green movement, etc., and then you start talking about meat, and all of a sudden they become very irrational. They can be even very smart and very rational in other cases, but here they become irrational. That's because they have so much to lose. That's because their investment is so big. I call it they are thinking with their stomach. Not thinking with their brain, they're thinking with their stomach. And they should stop doing that ideally. So we should help them do that. So in general, the question, do we need to care about what other people will think of our message? Do we care about our image? Do we care about their feelings? Yes, of course. Of course, because we have a purpose, we have a target, right? That's why we have to care. It's maybe a very pragmatic way of thinking, but if we don't care about what effect we're going to have on people, if we just care about our truth, then I don't think we're helping the animals in the best way we can. All right? Okay, the next part, very important. Don't make it any more difficult than it already is. Okay? This, again, is the way it looks to people. And what a lot of us do is this. Stop. Are you vegan enough? Are you vegan enough to come over to my side? I want to check first. Can we examine you? Can we can I go into your fridge? Can we make sure you don't do this and this and this? Do you know what this is? Do you know what that? We make it more difficult in all kinds of ways. Okay? And I suggest we stop that. And sometimes my impression is veganism was invented by two guys long ago who said I have this idea, I want to start the world's smallest group. How can we do that? How can we form the world's smallest group? We take something really difficult and we make it even more difficult with saying all these things and like attaching all these things to it, you know, and we make it like a lifestyle and not a diet. So I just tried to find a picture for the world's smallest group, and I found the world's smallest group on Facebook. So this guy says, this is the world's smallest group. Yeah, I'm the only member. If you join it, I will kick you out. Sometimes veganism looks like that to me. If you join, I try to keep you out because I want my group to be very small.
Can you just quickly go back to the other slide, because I noticed with the gap between. I just love it and I wanted. Yeah, are you vegan enough? I want to see. Are you vegan enough? Thanks.
Okay, so let's stop doing certain things. You know, we may be proud of a lot of things, but like you know how in public we like somebody asks us what you eat, what you don't eat, and then we're very proud. Like we say, no fish, no chicken, no beef, no honey, no silk, no dairy, no wool, no. And you know, we go on, and we're very proud. The longer the list is, the better, right? But of course, it's deterring to people. It's very scary. It's not like going to like encourage them to go vegan. So if you want to describe what vegan is, I mean, you could say again, like, yeah, how is this people going to know that honey is not vegan? They'll find out. You know, don't mention it in the first. And I would say, like, if you have to give a definition, and if they ask, like, okay, and honey, and then ask, oh shit, they ask me. Okay, yeah, honey is not vegan too, but I won't volunteer. There's a difference between volunteering the information, you know, and answering questions. In answering questions, I will answer them honestly, but I will not volunteer the information. All right. So yeah, we can also be like, in public we are like very, very in detail scrutinizing products, and like, I mean, sometimes there's many of people who are really proud of that, like that how difficult it is for them and what sacrifice they make. This is like not a good thing for the animals. The vegan police, this is not me. Looks a bit like me, I think, but it's not me. Yeah, people like examining what you're eating, etc. I met a guy once, and he said he never goes out to eat, never, because he doesn't trust what he's going to get on his plate. We met at the Vegan Congress, and he wasn't eating there. So do you think that's purity in the extreme, right? So that's I mean, sometimes you have the discussion: should we go to a vegetarian restaurant to support them, or to a non-vegetarian restaurant? You know, I think it's important for vegans to go to non-vegetarian restaurants, to make sure that these people get acquainted with, see that there's a demand, get acquainted with making vegan dishes, etc. All right. This, I think, is a very, very big put down. It's not a diet; it's a lifetime. It's a lifestyle. This is saying like, yeah, you want to be vegan. It's not enough just to change your diet. You know, it's a lifestyle. You have to change this and this and this too. You have to be political, and you have to be an activist, and you have to, yeah. This is making it much more difficult, and I would say, like, let's allow people to like come to this understanding themselves and like change in steps, you know, and not like ask for it all at the same time. This is the most important skill that an activist may have, I think. In general, an activist in general, it's this is the word you can use to remember it, Janja, and it stands for you are not your audience. You are not the people you want to reach. The people you want to reach, the people you're talking to, are different than you. It's actually a concept from marketing. If you were thinking of a marketing campaign, you're not thinking about yourself, like what you like. You're going to try to establish what the other people are like with research, etc. And you cannot depart from the idea that they all are like you. If you became vegan because you saw a chicken being killed, then it's not necessarily the best idea to show other people pictures of chickens being killed, because they may not have the same sensibility as you. You may be different from them. Okay, 2 examples to show this. How crazy people are in terms of food. This is Jamie Oliver. He tried to introduce in the UK. He tried to introduce healthy school lunches in secondary schools. And what happened was, so the students were eating. It was desirable that they ate these healthy school lunches. But what happened was that students just went out during lunch to the McDonald's and the Burger King, etc., KFC in the area, and just bought their crap there and ate that. And then the school said, okay, let's make sure they can't go out during lunch. So this is like in Belgium, this would not be weird. I mean, this is like a policy, like either you let the students out or not, you know. And so the students said like they can only have lunch at school. And then what happened was that a couple of mothers who were really infuriated, they went to the students through the fence of the school and they said like, what do you want? Big Mac and cheese, and whatever. And they went to the McDonald's in the area and they brought back the food to the students at school. And this gained national media attention there. So just to show you like how crazy irrational we can be when it's about food. Another example is you know this, the Heart Attack Grill in the U.S. So it's a fast food chain, and the burgers are so big that they almost literally increase your risk of a heart attack. So that's why the waiters are walking around like nurses, right? So these burgers they have names like the triple bypass burger. Right? And so there was a spokesperson and he was the greeter of this restaurant. So when people came in, he would say hi. He was a very big person from eating all these hamburgers, and he died of a heart attack. You know, so people walk in there with their eyes open. That's how irrational they are. That's how important food is to them. Fast food is to them. They're addicted. So understand that it's not enough to say like animals are suffering, so stop it. It's not going to work. Okay, so I refer to my previous talk for other techniques.
And I think it's again important to acknowledge the brainwashing we all undergo constantly in society. With you mentioned the advertising previously, the McDonald's advertising everywhere.
Yeah.
How powerful it is.
Yeah, it just adds to it. I mean, so you have to face it that naturally we are most of us find something in meat that they like. That it stays evolutionary. It was just arranged like we go for the protein and the fat, etc. So yeah, that's something we have to fight against, and that is reinforced. That desire for this taste, this craving, it's reinforced, like you say, by all the advertising and everything around it. So it's a very difficult thing we're up against, you know. And then, I mean, if you ever doubt that we are winning, you just have to consider how much money the meat industry is pumping into this, and still meat is not growing anymore in most Western countries, right? So even if they have a budget of billions of dollars, it's still not growing anymore. So that's a sign, I think, that we are winning. Okay, so the Heart Attack Grill spokesman dies from heart attack. Yeah. So Melanie talked about this already. Like when I say like you are not your audience, you differ from people in certain ways. Right? So can you say some ways in which we differ from other people, the people that we want to reach? What's different between us and them? In what ways are we different?
We have been thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah, why is that?
Because we are aware.
Why are you aware?
Because we ask ourselves questions.
Why do you do that?
Socrates. Okay. Because maybe we were exposed to something that made us think about something.
So you had other chances. You had, maybe your parents were different. Maybe you were a very different environment. Maybe you're smarter. Your IQ is higher. Maybe you were born with different character traits. You know. Yeah.
Every person's experiences in life are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of accumulation of
Yeah.
who we are.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of things more concretely in terms of like changing in terms of food? What makes people different? Changing their diet. Like some people may have health problems that make it more difficult or easier for them to change. Some people may not like vegetables. Again, it makes it difficult. There's all kinds of reasons. Some people are like just in their head less flexible than others. Some people learn faster than others. Some people change faster than others. So there's really a lot of things that can be different. So just depart from the idea that people are not like you. They may be like you, maybe they are, but don't assume that. So try to walk, and this is the most important thing, try to walk in their shoes. Try to imagine what it is to be like them. Try to imagine if you say something, if you write something down on Facebook, if you do whatever, try to imagine how an omnivore would perceive it. That's in marketing, it's just the same thing. You design an advertisement and you think like, how are they going to see it, right? That's completely opposite than saying like, this is the way I feel it, this is my truth, and this is what I'm going to communicate. It's completely different, right? Another exercise is that I think is useful is like imagine, I mean, this is to imagine yourself in the other person's shoes. Like you are a vegan and you are, to them, I think you are perceived as superior, as thinking you are superior, etc. So an exercise to put yourself in their place would be to imagine a person who's more superior than you. Like suppose I'm saying like, you're veganism. I'm a super locavore vegan. That means I'm only eating products from my own garden. Because I know that all this grain and all these vegetables, when they are harvested, you have all these mouse and rodents that are killed. So I think that's not very vegan, you know. And so I only eat products from my own vegetable garden, and where I do organic gardening or veganic gardening, and all the rest I really can't eat because I know it implied the death of a lot of animals.
Okay.
What do you say to that?
What if you lose your all fruits and vegetables?
You what?
What if you lose in some rain came?
Yeah, well, let's say we are a group of these people and we have several patches of land and we can exchange, okay?
So what we were trying to do is to make your option invalid. So automatically, you need to defend yourself. This is what we are thinking of, no? Like, trying, okay, it's not viable to have in a garden.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You will find the same arguments, and you may feel, the people who are prone to that may feel a little bit guilty, may feel a little bit inferior, may say like, oh, this guy, and like this is crap, and this argument is not worth it. And it's completely different than veganism, you know. It's like, this is intentional, and these rodents, they're not intentionally killed, and blah, blah, blah. And there was all, I mean, I'm not saying that the comparison is perfect, but you may recognize some of the things that you're doing that they are doing towards you, right? So it's always a good example it's always a good exercise to try to put yourself in their shoes like that. Yeah.
Well, I have to think about the people that think that plants have feelings too. So that they only eat fruits that drop from the tree.
Yeah.
So you have to, I think that would be the superior.
Yeah.
But still from the garden you could pull things out with the roots, so then you kill the plant.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be another example of somebody higher than you in the scale of compassion or whatever it is. And I think it's actually, I'm not going to dismiss that out of hand. This is another discussion, but like,
no,
if
but
people
more
say
like for an extreme case.
Yeah, it's good to think about like that. Yeah.
But a lot of people argument with that urban gardening and whatever stuff because of I don't want to eat the GMO shit and I don't want to to support the big companies with their crappy not tasty fruits and vegetables, for example.
Yeah.
So that's a different argument for this.
Yeah, sure. I'm just inventing somebody here like the super locavore vegan who doesn't exist as far as I know. But this person is it doesn't exist. This person is just saying like okay, I want to avoid, because it is true that a lot of rodents are killed in the harvesting of blah blah blah. So and there is some argument there is, for instance, an argument to only eat organic vegetables because there will be less animals killed. And if we know that and if we can afford it, why not do it, etc., etc. And you can like continue but the only thing I want to do here is not to have this discussion, but like make you feel what it is when you're talking to a person who you perceive as a bit superior than you in his principles. And then you will understand how it is to talk to you.
I think this is most of the time used from non-vegans to blame to vegans.
It is also, yes.
Just say, but you cannot eat because you...
Yeah, it's used the other way around too.
Mom is killed in the garden.
Yeah. So another example to look to try to imagine in another person's shoes. This is Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton explains why he became a vegan. What's just your note as an animal rights activist? What's your reaction to this?
He's having tuna every now and then.
He's having tuna. He's not a real vegan, right?
Exactly.
Right. But could it be possible? So try to imagine a benefit of this.
Of the tuna?
No, of Bill Clinton. No, I mean, I'm saying try to imagine a benefit of the fact that Clinton calls himself a vegan while he's not entirely vegan. Is there a benefit?
Yeah, that a plant-based diet where the focus is on plants is a healthy diet, and that you can, when you have, like he had heart disease, that you can turn that around. That is a very powerful tool.
But people would say like he's like making veganism. I mean, making the term vegan. He's deflating it in the sense that like he's using it for not being vegan, you know. So that's wrong. So yeah.
He's breaking down barriers, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That they are, like, every individual has their own stand.
Yeah.
What they
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a huge influence on the US population.
Yeah.
I think 60 or 70% of the US population would vote for him
Yeah.
in the elections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so I think it's good that this word is used there. There's a lot of people who say like, you shouldn't use that word, shouldn't use it. I mean, it's on CNN. It's like everywhere this word vegan, which is great. It's not entirely used correctly, maybe, but it's still out there. And I think that's wonderful. But this is not really what I talk about. What I want to talk about is, could it be that it would be more interesting to a lot of people if veganism was perceived as something that allowed for I'm not saying systematically eating fish, but allowed for a few exceptions. If we would say like that veganism meant that 2 times a year, I'm just inventing something, you could eat non-vegan stuff and you still could call yourself a vegan. Is it possible that for a lot of people it would be a lot more attractive?
It's an anti-stereotype.
What?
It's an anti-stereotype. It's an anti-stereotype. It's like the stereotype that people have in our heads of vegans, in their heads of vegans as being radical and extreme and never ever, and now it's showing the opposite.
You know this example of like a person saying like I could go vegan, but this rabbit at Christmas with my grandmother just once a year I just couldn't miss it. They liked the taste, or they couldn't stop eating it for their grandmother, not to hurt their grandmother or something. And if we then say like, yeah, well, you're not vegan, and then they don't start anything, that's detrimental, I think. So I'm not suggesting we should change the definition or whatever, but I'm in favor of some degree of flexibility, so that it would be a lot more attractive to people. And those who are worried about like systemically deflating the concept of veganism, I would say like that will solve itself in time. I mean, when these little exceptions you don't have to worry about. As soon as it's very easy, these people won't make these exceptions anymore. When we see vegans today who make exceptions, they're making them because it's still not so easy, right? And as soon as it's easy, they won't make those exceptions anymore, right? This got a lot of criticism on the internet.
Yes.
Beyonce and what's her boyfriend? Jay-Z. Who's her boyfriend? On a vegan diet for 3 weeks. And what did you read some of the things that people say? Oh, she's a fur bitch, and she wears fur and she's just doing it to get attention, and horrible things that they were saying about her. I don't know her. It's my policy that I try not to judge people without knowing them, and from the media we never know them, right? So they would say like, she's doing this to attract attention. I don't care why she's doing it. I mean, yeah, okay, if she's doing it to attract attention, does it mean that she shouldn't do it because she's wearing fur? Are we so strict that's what we want to say? Like you shouldn't do it because we wear fur, and you cannot use the word vegan. You have to use the word plant-based. Yeah.
I think she's even starting like a vegan delivery service right now.
Yeah, indeed.
You know, and she says to make it like 22 days because that's what it requires to make a change.
Yeah.
But she emphasizes that she's not vegan,
Mm-hmm.
but she still thinks it's a great choice.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite. I mean, it will reach a lot of people.
It's very impactful.
Try it out.
Yeah, and what you see in some part of the movement and on Facebook groups is that like, if you're vegan, everything is fine, no matter for the rest how inactive you are. And the other way around, if you're like a non-vegan who's doing things like this, then you can be blamed. And it's better to be a vegan in a basement, doing nothing, than being out there as a non-vegan, which is of course totally ridiculous, I think, in my humble opinion. Okay. What do you think of this? If you imagine yourself as like an omnivore and you read this.
Or as a vegetarian.
Or as a vegetarian even, yeah.
More like this.
Yeah. What do you think?
I changed after that.
You change after that. Yeah. And it's very well possible, but be careful not to generalize that to other people. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel.
The first time?
Wait. Yeah, go ahead.
I think a lot of people feel that they have to defend themselves
Mm-hmm.
and are put off and will go rather anti-vegan. And
Yeah.
they don't want to
Yeah.
do anything about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it relates to what Melanie said on the first day of the three, it's the perpetrator, the victim, and the witness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it puts the person into the position of, oh, so I'm the perpetrator, I don't want to be the perpetrator, so I just turn away and don't look into them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, also I think people don't see meat as murder, right? They don't, I mean, and it is, I mean, you could discuss it. Is it murder? Is it not murder? I mean, that's like a whole semantic discussion. Like it's murder is a technical, a legal term, etc. So it's not as simple as that. And I think this turns a lot of people off. Okay. Same about Holocaust things. Recently somebody said in a column, she said like, if you use, she was a non-vegetarian, and she said like, if you use the Holocaust in a discussion, you've lost. And I said like, yeah, and I wrote in my column, yeah, you've lost. And somebody asked me like, can you explain that, why you've lost? And I said like, you have to like distinguish the argument. Suppose that the comparison with the Holocaust is right. Suppose we can show that semantically it is right. Then still you've lost in the sense that if that person says you've lost, and if that person shuts up, and let's suppose that it won't like, she won't think about it anymore, then you've lost. Then even if you win the argument, even if you're right that this is like a Holocaust on your plate, then you've lost because you haven't had impact, right? And maybe there's a time when we will accept this comparison, or big masses of people will accept it.
I'm sorry, can I respond to that? Because not that I use this statement, but for example, Gary Yourofsky, he uses this statement. It's very popular in Israel, where actually it's a very sensitive topic. I mean, you would say that they would do the same that was done onto them in the Second World War. Yeah. How do you explain his effectiveness?
Well, it's hard to establish his effectiveness. I think first of all, I don't know how effective he is. I don't know how many people he's turning off. He has a lot of following on Facebook, etc. So does the other Gary, Gary Frenchio. But the question is, are they like mainly getting traction with the people who are already vegan or were very well on the way to becoming vegan? And are they also having traction with the general public? And Israel is then is a very particular place for the Holocaust comparison, of course. So it's very hard to say. But here I mostly I see like, I mean I see people react very badly to that comparison.
I had it a few times that meat eaters came up with this comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And I never know how to respond to that.
Yeah, maybe it's a test.
No, they really mean that. They say, I know you're right, it's like the Holocaust, but they still eat it.
Yeah.
I never know.
So those are the people who like believe in it already but cannot afford the behavior yet, for which we have to make it easier. They're already on our side in their heads, but they need more. They need more to do it. Like I was for 10 years. Yeah.
I have an aunt, and I grew up with her. I know her from when I was young. She was in Auschwitz. She had the tattoo. There was the experience and the atmosphere of Auschwitz concentration camp always in my life. So it was always present. So when I was confronted with this campaign, I was a little bit also disgusted. Although being a vegetarian all my life and a vegan already at the time when I met the campaign. So I was a little bit like, come on guys. You're going too far. But still I had to argue with it because I was doing info store, so I could say, yeah, my aunt was there, and I was actually defending the company on the other hand. You know?
I think it's just important to be like sensitive to what your audience thinks. If you have like a mass audience, or like if you're writing something and you don't know who you, this is a very important difference to make. Like if I talk to somebody who I know a bit, who I can see in front of me, I can see his reactions, I see his interest a bit, you know, that's a whole different situation than, for instance, writing something and you don't know who is reading it. Or you have like an advertisement on TV with the 5 million, and then you have to have like the lowest common denominator. Something that you will think like, this is like going to get people thinking, but it's not going to shock them all away. You know, when you're talking one-to-one, you can more feel your way into the conversation and feel like, okay, what do they like, what do they don't like, etc. So they're very different situations. Morrissey, you know, his comparison of the murders in Norway with, he said like that's nothing compared to what McDonald's does every day. when we had these like 70 people murdered or something. So this again is like for a lot of people, for a lot of activists, it's like true. And for me, it's like I can very well imagine this is you can say something for this. This is a true statement maybe, but yeah, and there is something in shock value certainly, but in general, I think at this moment a lot of people will be shocked and will be more prone to be alienated from the movement than anything else with a statement like this. All right. So stop. Let's. Are you vegan enough? Let's not do that anymore. Instead, what we need to do is make it easier by increasing the demand, like I said, and make it more attractive and talk to people in an attractive way. So yeah, these are very crude drawings. So this is just repetition. Adapt your arguments. You can talk about different things. You don't have to talk about eating meat, eating animals or animal rights. You can talk about other things too. Adapt according to like whatever their general level is, how far into the movement they are, their interest, their function, whether it's public versus private. Like if there's like 10 other people around you at the dinner or something, that's a different situation than when you talk one-to-one, right? And adapt your call for action. So you don't have to necessarily say go vegan. You can say like reduce your meat in a campaign as well as personally. And then there's this discussion we had it a bit like with Melanie's talk, I think, like, do we have to be open about what we want? If somebody's going to ask me like, what do you want? Do you want a vegan world? My answer would be like, I want it, but I also think it's going to come, no matter what I do. You know, I'm just there to like ease you into it, because it's coming anyway, right? But there's people who say like we should always at every moment be open from the beginning about what we're doing. It should be clear that vegan is the end goal. I don't know why they're saying that. I don't understand that. And I would compare it with hitting on somebody. Like suppose there's this guy or this woman and you say like this is like potentially marriage material for me. Like I want to marry this person. You know, you know him a bit or her a bit from school or whatever, and you think like this could be the one. You're not going to say that on day one, right? You're not going to say like I want to go to bed with you and I want to have babies with you and I want to marry, or whatever the order. So it's something that like you say in steps. And I think it's not a perfect comparison, of course, but I think that's a bit like that with veganism too. You just ease them into it. You don't necessarily have to tell them where you want to go. You can if you want, but I don't think it's always the best idea, right? Veganism is a very black and white thing, and people would be afraid not to have some things anymore in their life. It could be this or that food. Could also be support from people. Could be all kinds of things. So give them a chance to like grow into it instead of like having to instead of it's like an on-off switch or something, or a green or a red button. Okay. Melanie also briefly talks about this. Leave room for doubt. So you admit that you don't have all the answers, and it's been researched in, for instance, in the case of speakers, public speech, like I'm doing now. I'm giving a speech. If I say now and then I'm not really sure and I don't have all the answers, I will sound more convincing to you, right? If I pretend I'm very sure, then well, maybe it has a good effect, but most of the time you might have less trust in me than when I say like, oh yeah, this could be true, and even against my own arguments. If I say like, yeah, I really have to consider. I mean, genuinely, like I could say like my theory. I am not sure of my theory. It's like it's perfectly possible. I haven't done empirical research about it. Can you see how it makes me more trustworthy when I say that? When I show my own doubts, I think that's very important in a conversation too, and especially when you do public speaking. So yeah, confirm you don't know everything, admit your own imperfections. And I think it's also useful to think that, or to consider that even within the vegan movement and the vegan topics, there are still dilemmas. And there is still room for doubt, and there are still things that are not that clear-cut and not that simple, right? For instance, is meat eating, this is just what I want to do with activists in general, is sometimes make them think a little more than beyond the dogma that we all have within us. I mean, dogma is an ugly word, but a lot of people have like this fixed ideas, like this is wrong, this is good, this is vegan, this is not vegan, etc. And sometimes it's good to think a bit further about that, right? So for instance, a kind of controversial blog post I wrote a couple of months ago was, would you ever eat a piece of meat for a lot of money? Would you? A lot of people said like, no, never. And yeah.
How much?
Thank you for asking my question.
I think I don't know what if I said something, but I think I said like $1 million or something.
Yeah, because I could then reinvest it
Exactly.
into the vegan.
Yeah. So I think that's a perfectly, not everybody may agree with that, but I think it's a perfectly honorable response, right? So it's good to think a bit further sometimes on questions and not think that we have all the answers. Is killing an animal ever defensible? Can you ever defend killing an animal?
I think there are some obvious cases where people, like it's evolution, no? Like as Melanie refers to that, like she doesn't make any judgment on people, for example, in the North Pole, no?
Yeah.
Where their only way of surviving is eating fish.
Yeah.
So in these cases, like it's not about choices, no?
Mm-hmm.
So it might be defensible in a way. It's
Yeah.
either the fish or them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice of them.
Yeah. Or there could be, well, you could be threatened by a bear or something and you have to shoot. Or you could be in front of like a suffering animal. You know, that's very much suffering, and then it's good to put it out of his misery, right? And somebody had the theory like if meat could be like that it would only be like from animals shot to put them out of their misery, then maybe it's not that bad. So I mean, there's some things that we can philosophize over. I'm not going into it very deeply, but I can. I think if we have a drink after this, I can make anybody of you doubt about everything. Like these questions that Melanie asked yesterday, like the opposite debate that you had to think of the opposite. You have to defend the opposite opinion, right? Like why being vegan is not the best to help the animals, why it's not immoral to be veganish. I had no problem doing this exercise because I was agreeing with all these statements right up front. Because I could always see.
You were very convincing.
I could always see like a reason why that could be true in some cases. And it's good to be open for that, to like know that it's not always, it might be 99% black and 1% white, you know, and there's some gray in there, but it might be almost clear, but often it's not entirely clear. And I think it's just good to realize, yeah. Humor is, Melanie also talked about that, I think it's one of the most important things in dialogue and in talking to people. And yeah, it was already said that you're kind of like in a difficult position. Like if somebody makes a joke at you, you like can joke at your own oppression. It depends. I mean, if you see it as your own oppression, yeah, then you shouldn't laugh. But you can also say like, yeah, I don't feel oppressed. I mean, it depends how you feel about that. Most of the time, I don't take it seriously, and I can laugh along with it, and I don't mind laughing at my own thing. And I think for me, most of the time, it's more important to show that I'm not. I don't want to confirm the stereotype of the like very serious vegan who cannot laugh at anything. I think that's more important, and I'm not suffering from oppression by humor in that case. And I think sometimes it's really striking how much of a lack of humor we have. I mean, it's a very serious topic that we're discussing, and animals are dying, etc. But still, humor is a very strategic thing. Right. So, for instance, we posted this on Facebook at some point, like as a vegan Christmas alternative, and some people were really affronted and really very angry. They were saying like, "Oh, we're making fun of this poor creature, you know, of a lobster," and yeah, then that's when I think it's going too far. Personally, you know, that if other people would say that we take even this seriously, that we are like emotionally tied to something like this, that people will not think it's very rational anymore and not worth discussing with anymore. I worry about that. Okay, some other practices. I've just collected. I'm not sure how many we're going to do, but some Facebook, because we're communicating on Facebook often too, and I collected a lot of like pictures with memes that we can just briefly analyze, and you tell me. I give you like 1 second. I just want to raise fingers. I want to see you raise your hand, and I want to see who thinks it's effective and who thinks it's not effective. And with effective I mean, would it like make an omnivore more open to vegans and veganism? Okay? All right, here's the first one. So who thinks this is effective? Who thinks it's not effective? Who doesn't know? So, and who didn't ever put their finger in the air? Okay. So somebody who says it's, well, there's no people who think it's effective. Why it's not effective? Yeah.
It's for one-to-one discussion or a Facebook post for me. If I talk to you, I can use this argument, but I wouldn't put a post on my wall because, again, I'm accusing people actually.
Yeah, and would you, in a one-to-one conversation, would you say it like this?
Not directly.
Yeah.
But it's well, it depends. It's really a thing of the situation. It really depends on the person you're talking to.
Right.
So I have used it already, but in a way, like
think
about it, like you.
I mean, it's different. I mean, I could say something like, I've really thought, I've studied it a long time, this veganism, and I was a meat eater for a long time, and I've studied, I've read books of like people being against it, philosophers, and I've come to the conclusion that for me, personally, myself, there's no good excuse not to do it. And that's completely different, of course, than stop trying to make excuses. There are no good excuses, you know. So it depends on, like, with Facebook there is no tone of voice. I mean, you read it the way it depends on your personality how you read it. And since the omnivores already have this idea of us that we are accusing, they will probably read it in an accusing way, right? So that's a reason to be very careful with something like this on Facebook. Yeah.
Actually, I think it's not only the wording, but it's the color and the layout.
Yeah. This is one of the famous Francione posters. So he's posting them now and then, and most of them are pretty bad.
How about just this last message there? I think it was Colleen Patrick Goodrow. I can recommend her pod. Should you say even something about what we want them to do, like go vegan? And she says she never do that. That people feel that people shouldn't tell anyone else what to do. Let them figure out themselves. And I know there's a discussion, and I'm not completely sure, but people can figure out what we want. Maybe we don't have to tell them.
So you are basically talking about this go vegan. So Melanie talked about that adults don't like to be called what to do. Also, a term from sales is persuasion resistance. So people don't like to be persuaded. If you are a salesman and people have the impression that you try to persuade them to buy a yellow car instead of a blue car, then they might even buy the blue car even though they want the yellow car. So they really, I mean, it's something like, I think they want to think that they can think for themselves, and if they let themselves be convinced that they think that they're not really thinking for themselves. So in general, you have to be very careful with these imperatives. Yeah.
You can use that instead of go, try vegan. It would be a little bit better. Makes not good, but it makes it better to replace the go instead of try vegan instead of go vegan.
Yeah.
Makes it a little bit better, but it's not good.
Right. Here's another one. The difference between people who state veganism is easy and those who state veganism is hard is those who say it's easy are focused on the victims, while those who say it's hard are focused on themselves.
Wow.
What do you think?
It's already bad with the number of words there.
Apart from that, who thinks it's effective? Nobody. Okay. So here you are practically saying, like, I mean, those who are vegan are the good people and they are altruistic, and those who are non-vegan are egoistic. I mean, what kind of a message is that?
Yeah, but I think it's also criticizing every vegan who's, vegan is not as easy. So
Exactly,
you're not compassionate, you're a monster. So.
Or the vegans who are not doing it for the animals, it's also accusing. Yeah. So this is like only about the, you know, the little heart in the top, like the people who are vegan for the right reasons. 10 out of 10 animals agree that not being eaten is beneficial to their health. Who thinks it's effective? Yeah. Who thinks it's not? Okay, we agree. So this is like a humorous picture with, it makes you think a bit. It's like nicely phrased. I think most of the time these from Vegan Street are pretty good. Veganstreet.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, if you say that you love or respect animals but you eat them, you are completely confused about the meaning of love. What do you think? This is a French Yoni quote.
Yeah.
So can you see the judgment in this? Like, you don't know what love is, I know. I mean, and it's easy to like not see that. I mean, as an activist, and like if you're not like thinking about what the other person would think, you know, there's a lot of activists who like this. I mean, these things get likes, hundreds of likes all the time, you know. But it's, if you think about it, this is a person saying like, I know what love is and you don't. Which is like, I think Melanie would say, defining reality for somebody else. Okay. This one, even worse. So I betrayed my privilege. The privilege of being able to identify oneself as an animal belongs only to vegans. As an animal lover belongs only to vegans. So you can only say you're an animal lover if you're vegan. Right?
Actually, I know the opposite. Some vegans call the animal rescuers, let's say, those who eat meat, they're just animal lovers, we're the animal rights.
Right, yeah, that's a matter of wording here. Yeah. What about this one? Death is just a death race. More than 1,200 racehorses are killed at the track each year. It's like is it effective?
It's very informative.
It's informative. I think it's not blaming. It's something that people probably don't know.
And
it's not about
and it's very objective.
It's not about something that people are really involved with.
Yeah, that makes it easier. Yeah, but like suppose it was about pigs that they are involved in, more than 1,000 whatever pigs. It's still stating it as a fact. It's an observation. It's not like, and that's because of you. You know. Okay, if you're against animal abuse, why are you eating it? What do you think?
I think it's effective.
Who says it's effective?
At first sight, I would say it's okay at least. I wouldn't say it's bad.
Yeah.
Away. Because it's like challenges to your, you know, to your seeker to think a little more.
Yeah.
I think it's not saying that you're doing something wrong, no? It's like,
yeah.
I think it might put the person into the position of like, we accuse them of being a hypocrite.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's true. I'm on the fence about this one. Like I think it's good to give them the idea, I mean, hint at the idea that there's a discrepancy between their behavior and their beliefs, but it could be done probably in a more elegant way. Yeah.
It would be much easier to change the I to a we.
Yeah, for instance.
Against animal abuse, why we are eating it.
Yeah.
It's much better than
That's what
I think that's a general thing, that it's the you is always dangerous. So either you say we, or you say I, or you try to avoid pronouns altogether. But you is very dangerous, generally, especially on Facebook when there's no tone of voice that you can hear, that it's not meant too strictly or too too condemningly, too judgingly. Yeah. Yeah.
I found that using we makes a huge difference. I really used a lot of yous a long time ago, and when I started to use we, I found that I could even go very far, but without offending people, because the we implies that I am a part of this too, as part of the society, and I found that it made really a tremendous difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to show you a video.
Excuse me, everyone. Can I ask you to listen to me for a minute, please? I have a little girl. She was very abused for her entire life. She was terrified. She has a very determined look in her eyes wherever she goes. And she was hurt and abused her entire life because of this establishment and because of establishments like it. She was locked away. She was hidden. She had nobody there for her. She was crying. She was scared every single moment. And because her usefulness had run out, she was going to be killed. Someone was going to murder her. And I can see you smiling, and I can see you laughing, but to her this is not funny. I went in there with other humans, and I took her out of there. And if I hadn't, she wouldn't be with me right now. She would be gone, just like all of her sisters, just like everybody who we left behind. And I'm here to tell you today that all of those other girls, that everyone who we left behind, they just wanted to live too, and they deserve their lives. And right now their eggs and their milk and their bodies are on plates inside this restaurant, and that is so unfair to them. My little girl's name is Snow. And every time you see someone eating somebody else's eggs or somebody else's body, you are going to remember her name. Her name is Snow. She's a beautiful little girl and she just wants to live. This isn't food. It's violence. It's not food. It's violence. Please think of her name every time you see somebody's body on a plate. Her name is Snow, and she just wants to live. Thank you.
So, what do you think? I just showing this entirely because have you heard of it? It's direct action everywhere.
The second movie is going to play.
Oh, okay.
So thanks again.
So there's
everyone for coming out here
a lot of videos you can find on YouTube like this. So I have to go back. Okay. Oh, now I can't see. Okay. Is it something embarrassing?
We now know where you're staying.
Okay. So what do you think? So this is like a movement. It's a group of people all over the world who do this kind of things, and they're imitating the model. Most of the time they go into like warehouses, supermarkets. This is a restaurant demo, but they mostly do it, as far as I can see, in supermarkets, and they copy the model everywhere. So it's kind of like they walk in and they have plates, signs, and they have a text that they most of the time not as emotionally as this girl, but most of the time, a message like this, and the tagline is, or the baseline is, it's not food, it's violence. So it's called direct action everywhere. What do you think? Yeah.
I have some mixed feelings, but I like the fact that she, first you are a little bit in doubt, what does she want, and I'm thinking, well, who has she lost? And it comes piece by piece by piece, so I don't get my resistance up, because I don't know at first place that she's attacking my personal choices.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, like, if I put my shoes on the meat eater mind, I'm there in a restaurant eating my chicken, and I don't see any problem on eating meat, and I see this person, and although we believe that they're not crazy because they're really, they believe what we believe, but I would see, if I were a meat eater, I would think that they are crazy. They're extremists, they're just annoying me in a restaurant. This is my opinion. So I don't think it's effective.
Yeah.
Unless for maybe some people that, maybe 1% of the population that might change because of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I think the kind of form, how they do the protest, is kind of really like a creative protest, but the content, I would choose a positive content.
Yeah.
In form of giving a solution
solution right at the moment. I mean, they are kind of perpetuating their environment, their private environment. They're trying to organize me out, and instead of giving kind of a negative input, just giving them some solution. For example, I don't know, I mean, anything together with you or a nice tofu, whatever.
Yeah.
Try something positive or fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My heart says it, my head says it's too much, but my heart says, oh, I nearly cried with her, and so maybe it's effective because it's emotionally effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I felt resistance coming up, totally. I remember I was in London one time and visiting someone at a hospital, and there were a group of people demonstrating against abortions. And they were doing that in a very drastic and graphic manner. And I was walking into this hospital, and they were like pressing on me, and I had like, I wasn't pregnant, I didn't have anything to do with abortion at that time. I was just trying to get into this hospital, and it was so scary, and it just, I felt that they were transpassing my comfort zone in such a manner that at that point I didn't, they didn't win me over. They wouldn't have won me over to their course. And my answer would have been like, sort of, it's my personal choice.
Yeah.
So, and then I wouldn't be open for animal suffering, etc. in that point.
Yeah. Yeah, first.
I'm a huge fan of flash mobs. So this has flash mob nature, but I like positive flash mobs. So it's not. My first thought was she's off her meds. She didn't take her pills this morning. Something's wrong with her, you know. But I think it's nice material for YouTube, maybe to sit, you know, with your friends and like we do now, and actually discuss it. And you know, actually, she's not so wrong, like we say, but look at the way. So maybe it's this discussion opener, maybe. You know,
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that DXC, this Direct Action Everywhere, says that one of their ideas with this is to make it so that people start talking more about it. And another reason that they do this is they want to make activists, and they say that this is like, it clearly works because it's like they're all over the world, people are starting to do this. Yeah. Any other opinion that you want?
I think it's too intrusive.
Yeah.
And it seemed like she has some serious mental health issues. So I don't know, like it's a really difficult position, and I don't want to be perceived as a, you know, I want to come across as a rational, intelligent person, not like someone who's completely hooked up on their emotions.
Yeah. Also keep in mind, if you judge or if you try to assess the impact or the quality of this action, you've seen that the restaurant wasn't very full. There were like maybe 10 people there, but it's been seen 900,000 times on Facebook. So it's also like a matter of like how perceive people this on Facebook. Okay, how is this being forwarded to everybody to show like, hey, this is a girl that lost it, or are people saying like, hey, I really like this, look at her bravery because I think she's very brave. You know, we don't really know how well. We can look at the reactions under there, but well, in any case, I want to say that this is like a growing thing, and it has a lot of like people who are very enthusiastic about it, and it has also people who are like very divided, very negative about it, very thinking like this is like they call it disrupting speciesism. Like when it happens, speciesism, you have to disrupt it, and you have to go in there and show it's wrong. And one of the things that is strange or remarkable, you know, Whole Foods in the United States, the really big health food store with 400 stores. It's like a vegan heaven if you go there, if you haven't been there, if you're from another country. Melanie misses it all the time. It's incredible, it's amazing, and it's I mean it's the best store in the world for vegans, and that's where they go demonstrating, because they have also humane meat. You know, they want to expose the humane meat lie, you know, and that's where they go demonstrating. So it's that's also a factor that seems very tricky to me. Yeah.
But I am confused now because So you don't think it was effective, because I got the impression that you wanted to say that in some cases it might be effective because of the YouTube hits or people.
No, I'm saying like I'm personally not in favor of all of this. Although I think there might be a time when this is effective. Like it could be a matter of time when there's more public support. And if you're going to do this against fur, it will be a lot more successful than if you're going to do it against meat, right? But in terms of the hits, I just meant like this got 900,000 hits, and if all these people, or if 70% of the people seeing it on YouTube thinks like, oh my god, this is awful, this is crazy, this is like these animal rights people are completely off their meds or whatever, then it's a very negative effect, of course, a big negative effect.
If it's YouTube, you see the likes and dislikes actually.
Yeah, let's see what they say.
You have to like it or something.
It has 9,000 comments. So yeah, so it is important in our discussion.
You see the most popular comment above, so then maybe get.
Particularly if this thing is going to grow, then it is important to like see. The most popular comment, well, it's not. See, the first comment is vegans care about animal life. I respect that. Vegans are fucking dumbasses. I don't respect that. And he calls her a feminazi, yeah, whatever.
Well, that's pretty much summarizes what we're talking about.
Yeah, and then the next person with 76 likes says, "Animals are alive, plants are alive. Now shut the fuck up." Okay, well, it doesn't necessarily say something, but yeah, it's. I think it's good to keep an eye on this kind of activity, and I've been challenging these people to like. It cannot be that difficult to go in there after the demo and to ask the people who were there, to ask them 3 questions. How did you feel about this demo? You know, like did it? I mean, asking them something like, are you now more open to animal activism or less or whatever? And also ask it. I've made a small questionnaire that I want to send out, that I put out on Facebook. You know, and ask people like, watch this video and then answer these questions. It's very simple. Nobody seems to have done it. I mean, nobody thinks about like what kind of effect is this having. And then you have very anecdotal things like, oh yeah, there was a person and he was watching this and afterwards he said, can I join you? Yeah, okay. I mean, that's one person. We cannot derive anything from that. So, yeah. Okay, I just wanted to show it in full because I think it's it shows a lot of things. It shows also her passion, and it shows how passion can be like, how passion can maybe able in the way of being effective. Can get in the way of being effective. You know, I think like some people have said, it's very disruptive. These people are eating they're eating bodies, animal bodies, we can't deny that, but then they're like confronted with somebody who tells them they're like murderers, etc. That I think, I agree with somebody who said like it could be done, they could also stand there like little Gandhis or something and like very like compassionate and like, I don't know, but that might sound crazy or look crazy too, so but maybe something better could be done, right? Okay, how much time do we have left?
1 minute.
1 minute?
Sorry.
Okay, let's see what's interesting. See the difference between these 2 things? This is the same message. You can't call yourself an environmentalist and eat meat, period. That's like defining reality again. You cannot call yourself an environmentalist, even if you never use a plane, and I use planes like 5 times a week, but I'm vegan, then you cannot call yourself an environmentalist and I can, you know? And this person says kind of like the same thing. Beef and sustainability are about as compatible as war and goodness. It's a completely different thing, right? He says like, I mean, different way of saying it, but it's the same message. It's like, beef is not sustainable. And this is signed by, I mean, this is a quote by a scientist, which is much more credible, of course. You see the difference between those 2 memes and you see which one you want to use? I fundamentally disagree with this kind of talk. You know, yeah, it's not sustainable, but nobody is perfect, and if somebody wants to call themselves an environmentalist, maybe you don't know what he's doing. He can be doing all kind of great things for the environment, but he's accidentally eating meat, or not accidentally. It doesn't mean that we are in a position to say that he's not, or they are not an environmentalist.
Don't forget that this one was targeted at Al Gore.
Huh? This one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He came up with this. What was his?
Inconvenient truth?
Yeah.
It could be, but you see it used generically to all kinds of people.
Yeah, I think Peter said it.
Yeah, Peter started it, I think. Yeah, see the difference? These are all kind of different things about milk. Like, just so you can have dairy products. You know, we do this and this and this to the cow, so you can have dairy products. This one says like, my mom, my milk. Dairy separates families. It's a bit more neutral, or it's a lot more neutral. This one, my milk is for my babies. My milk is for my babies, so is mine. Kind of like this one. It's not accusing to why it's not personal. How to get milk in 4 easy steps. This is informative. But it does end with like, now you can drink her baby's milk. It's like that's a bit more accusing. It could be better. Would be better like now the milk is ready for I don't know what. Say it in a personal way.
Yeah.
I kind of like this kind of things to make people think like, okay, what's the difference between one and the other? This is informative too. Cage hens against free range hens. I think it can like. It's not a personal attack, but people can say like, okay, this, whoa, I'm shocked to see that this is free range, you know. This is the same thing here. A nice example of like making people think, I think. Every time an animal escapes from the slaughterhouse, everyone wants to save his life. Why is that? Right? So it's like people will realize, yeah, that's true. Like this being this like rescue action for this calf that escaped or whatever, and then they can start to think like, what is it? All right. Okay, I'll leave you with the final answer to where do you get your protein? All right.
I actually used that one once.
Okay, that's it. I don't think is there more. It's time for a break, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for your attention.